Hello, you're listening to the ChineseChat Poetry Talk podcast 中文热聊之诗歌漫谈 I'm the host, 李白 Welcome to my channel to read Chinese classic poetry, learn and practice Mandarin. On this program, we invite Shenzhan Liao from China Institute, New York, to read and discuss Chinese classic poetry. Welcome, Shenzhan.
Today, the poem is 次北固山下，作者是王湾。Read aloud, 朗诵次北固山下。Here is the title. You can follow me. 次北固山下。Some of you may recognize this character 次，一次、两次 it means time, right? How many times? You have read something, 我去过一次纽约 I've been to New York once. But here 这个次有另外一个意思。你看这个英文的名字 A mooring under Northport Keel. 所以这个次是 temporarily stop. It's rarely in modern Chinese. Just a little bit about Wang Wan. We don't know much about Wang Wan. He might not be the most famous poet in Tang Dynasty. Some of you may know Tang Dynasty, especially Wang Wan's time. It's High Tang. That's the peak of Tang Dynasty in terms of Chinese classical poetry. So two lines I want to mention in this poem is particularly famous, which we will read later. The Tang Emperor in Wang Wan's time actually made this poem to be sent to all of his officials, so that this is more of an example or textbook type of poem that we are reading today. The translator is Witter Bynner, and he himself is an American poet, particularly while writing themes and styles related to Japanese and Chinese cultures. So we will start by me reading the entire poem. You can hear the pronunciation, the fluctuation of the tones, and then we will read word by word and line by line. 次北固山下，客路青山外，行舟绿水前。潮平两岸阔，风正一帆悬。海日生残夜，江春入旧年。乡书何处达？归雁洛阳边。That's the entire poem. Now let's get into each word and each line, and then I will pause after each line, and you can repeat yourself as well. Okay, here we go. 好的，现在我们开始，好吧？客路青山外，客路青山外，行舟绿水前。行舟绿水前。潮平两岸阔。潮平两岸阔。风正一帆悬。风正一帆悬。海日生残夜。海日生残夜。江 春入旧年，将春入旧年。So I want to pause a little bit. This is a line I was referring to that made this poem famous for not only at Wang Wan's time, but also generations to come. Of course, while the two lines cannot exist without the rest of the poem, if we go back, we could see that the first two lines, 客路青山外，行舟绿水前, it's building up a story. It's describing the poet is taking a boat and traveling in the river. It's describing an event just quite plainly, but still in the form of the poetic regulated verse. Next two lines, continuing building up the scenery. 潮平两岸阔，风正一帆悬. But we start, or I start, because everybody reading this poem can have your own interpretation. But the fact that it has really described how wide the river is and how upright the sail of the boat is. And while there are waves, 潮, there's wind, 风, but while it's really wide, calm, and you have the Chinese word 阔 and 正, it's upright, 阔, it's wide. It starts to give me as a reader a sense of it's opening a grand scene. And now it comes to this line, 海日生残夜，江春入旧年. The sun, the morning sun, is born into the day. 生 is being born. It's born into the day from the night, the darkness of the night. 夜, while it is still lingering because it is the dawn of the new year. The reason we choose this poem is because Wang Wan wrote this poem at the change of the new year. And the next line, 江春入旧年, we have the water, the boat is in the river, we have the water, 江, and the spring, 春, is carried into the new year, while the water is also carrying away the old year. 旧年, 旧 is old, 年 is year. So this is the line that really connects the theme with how an individual like Wang Wan, the poet, feels at that moment. And honestly, not only paints a picture to me of how all these natural elements at this moment to come together to express how one feels about the passing of the year. So by looking at this line, I would feel, yes, I feel the sort of the sentiment of last year, the change of the year, but there's more hope there. There's more comforting that something new is coming. And how to end that, because you almost feel to the point that you cannot bring it to a grander level. The last line, 乡书何处达，归雁洛阳边, coming back to the thought of home. So especially the turning of the year, feel the pass of the time. For Chinese or Chinese culture, the returning point is always home. Of course, home is important in every culture. But for Chinese, I want to emphasize perhaps it's the anchor of individual position in the universe, in the world. That when one feels sentimental or small in front of the grandness of the nature of the universe, one's position and connection with the family is the anchor That's particularly important in Chinese culture. And also for Chinese New Year, everybody goes back home. Now, start with this line and continue. 海日生残夜，江春入旧年。江书何处达？乡书何处达？归雁洛阳边。归雁洛阳边。Wang Wan was born in Luoyang, so that's his hometown. And this poem was written when he was passing Zhenjiang. That's a town in southeast or more east of China. Luoyang is in the north of China, so it's a far distance that, especially for Chinese for the New Year time, when one is not with families and facing the passing of the year, those kind of sentiments could be even more amplified. 那我们再读一遍好吗？整首诗 the entire poem, let's do it together. 次北固山下，客路青山外，行舟绿水前。潮平两岸阔，风正一帆悬。海日生残夜，江春入旧年。乡书何处达？归雁洛阳边。That's the entire poem.
Thanks for your listening. I'm 李白，我是李白。See you next time. 我们下次见。